SJ. Welcome to Muscogee Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. Stongo, Gary Fife, Jehodzifkados, Muskogee Radio, Mabuhejidawedjkis. Welcome to our program today. If you've been following the news and the headlines in Indian country, you know it's been full of the recent developments for the Standing Rock Sioux in North Dakota. The Dakota Access Pipeline has been denied a permit to complete its construction by building pipelines underneath Lake Oahe. It's been hailed as a victory by many of those in the camp and across Native America, but it's also taken with a grain of salt. This agreement could be as good as long as President Obama is in office and could be changed by incoming President Donald Trump. So we'll kind of have to see what happens on that. We know that a lot of folks have vowed to stay if needed. And our hats are definitely off to the thousands of veterans who showed up in support of the water protectors there and gave their support. That particular event is filling our show today. First of all, we'll be speaking with some folks who have been active locally. You might have seen them on television stories conducting demonstrations in downtown Tulsa. And in the second half of our program, we'll be speaking with some Muscogee Creek gentlemen who have actually been up there and have just returned since these news developments have happened. So we'll get a first-hand idea of what they saw. So please stay with us here on Muskogee Radio, here on 1240 The Brew. Let's just go ahead and get right into our first piece. We are speaking with Bobby Robideaux, who is a up-front speaker at most of these Tulsa demonstrations, and he was accompanied by Adrian Spotted Horse Chief, and they were talking about their reasons for going up north and why they felt it was important for them to lend their support. All right, now, Mr. Robideaux, you right now, as we speak, are in the process of heading north to join in the water protectors and the Standing Rock Reservation up in North Dakota, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
All right, now, your name and image has been also shown on some of the demonstration activities here in Oklahoma. First of all, why do you think it's important for you to be heading north to join in this situation?
Well, it's important to head north for this situation because there's an unjust act against humanity being taken place. And whenever there's an unjust act against humanity, it's humans' responsibility to come together.
Now, there have been discussions of the reason why this water protectors opposing the Dakota Access Pipeline event has been happening. One, they're saying that the pipeline would desecrate sacred ground, and two, that there is environmental concerns over the water there. Are you following those kinds of reasons? Do you have any thoughts about why these people are taking this stand?
Well, yeah, definitely, and it's not that it's a potential to desecrate sacred grounds. They have desecrated the sacred ground, and it is an environmental risk. That's why Bismarck, the city of Bismarck, denied the pipeline to come through their community, so they rerouted it. You know, it's unfortunate that, you know, the mass numbers of a popularized community can ultimately decipher how, you know, the layout of a pipeline can be routed to a community that does not have as many numbers. So that's why we are obligated to come in to show that we are numbers, and we are worried and concerned about the environmental effects that this pipeline will ultimately have, as the Missouri River is the primary source of drinking water for over 20 million people that feeds into the Mississippi, which leads into the Gulf.
Now, you have been involved in demonstrations down here in Oklahoma, a good deal distance, many miles away from the event in North Dakota. First of all, why was it important for these demonstrations to take place here in Tulsa? And I understand there have been similar events in Oklahoma City. Why is it important that Oklahomans down here take part and be aware of the situation up north?
Because ultimately, compromising sovereignty is a thing that affects all tribes. It's not just affecting the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. It also will affect the Pawnee tribes, the Osage, the Creek, the Cherokee. So, whatever they're willing to do up there, we have to know that it can happen here, and it is happening here in Oklahoma, right in our Pawnee Nation. We have injection wells, fracking going on that's violating a lot of our, treaties that were made with the BIA and the Bureau of Land Management, and, consideration factors of how that affects our people and our lands are not taken into consideration. So, we have to let Standing Rock know that we are with them. We're just a prayer away, because ultimately, if we don't unite and come together, then it's just going to continue our segregation amongst each other as tribal people. Before, if something happened to, let's say, the Hopi or the Navajo, we just say, well, that's their issue. We'll let them handle that all, one united people. So we're standing together. So Tulsa coming together is no different than just being in Standing Rock. This is not a Native American issue. This is a human issue. This is an American issue. It's also a global issue of just how power of money and compromise of our government's integrity can ultimately change constitutional rights and views on safety of those affected directly or indirectly by someone else's actions.
During those demonstrations here in Tulsa, you got a lot of support, according to the news stories, coverage of those demonstrations. What did you see when you held those events here? Who was coming out to support you, and what were they saying?
We had a lot of great support from just a very diverse group of people of, just caring hearts. And, the Cherokee Nation came, our Pawnee people came, Ponkas, Otos, even Osages, who are a very fossil fuel or natural mineral right holding tribe. They even came in support because ultimately, this resource is put into the environment for a balance by our Creator. It's not meant to be pulled out because it's going to have an ecological effect on everything that we see on our surface. Everybody that came out with good hearts, good prayers, thoughts of, alternative, actions that we can do to progressively move forward that are in a more affirmative, direct action, because just unifying does nothing. If 800 people come together consistently and 800 people ultimately agree with each other, it's not meeting, it's not reaching anybody outside of that. So we're trying to raise awareness locally that this is going on, because major media sources are not showing these true actions that are taking place up in North Dakota, because they are ultimately joined up with this, controlled by money, influenced by money. So we have the local stations who are there in Oklahoma that have, want to bring awareness to not only what's going on up in Standing Rock, but what also is going to, ultimately take place in Oklahoma.
Now, you mentioned a lot of different people have come out in support. While these demonstrations were going on, did you hear or see any groups or individuals who are opposed to this stance and your demonstration?
No, sir.
There were absolutely no people saying, this was wrong and we should be supporting this development.
Well, whenever we did a set-in and took over the Bank of America downtown Tulsa, maybe they opposed it. Probably made them a little bit uncomfortable, but I assured them that we were there in peace and in prayer, and that, we had protectors and Tulsa police that were there, and, there's no laws were broken. We were just invoking and practicing our rights of freedom of assembly, freedom of protest, freedom of press, freedom of speech, and that ultimately they had people that were with us. Our protectors had money invested and secured in those banks. They wanted their money back because the Bank of America is one of the, banks that help provide funding or lending to this pipeline. So, maybe they were in opposition to what we were obligated because that's their job. But, the Tulsa police, they understood. They did their job as they took that oath to enforce our civil rights and our rights to, have our freedoms to speak and assemble in a peaceful manner. And, they stood there and they did that. They upheld that integrity of the law, and I commend them for their job. So, ultimately, to answer your question, there has not been anybody that I have seen at our rallies that have been against it. Our rallies and our march, and, it's all been in peaceful protest, and there's been nobody in opposition or no negativity. There's been nothing.
Let's look at law enforcement here for a second. The Morton County in North Dakota and the North Dakota governor are rallying their support, their forces, and have been holding a line there. And we've heard accusations of use of water cannon and chemical dispersants and things like that to get people to move and leave. There's now reports out there that a woman's arm was severely injured due to law enforcement actions. That's got to be kind of intimidating. What are your thoughts there when you know you're going to face a very rigid opposition from those local police and law enforcement agencies?
Well, first off, I want to make it clear that those allegations are actually facts. They are using those types of extreme, inhumane, weapons. Water cannons when it's sub-freezing temperatures, percussion grenades that did, in fact, open up, that woman's arm. The sound cannons, the pepper spray, attack dogs, tear gas. They are doing those things, but to a peaceful, praying people of no violence. Practicing prayer and practicing the First Amendment, and also even the press that went up there to cover it. They were having their cameras taken away, violating their freedom of press. And as we go up there as Pawnee, we're Chodics, and we're men of men. We're not afraid of nothing. We're willing to face any opposition or any enemy, whether it be in peace, prayer, or to the battle of, whatever that comes to. We come at it, we come strong, we come in faith that our Creator is going to guide us, protect us, and He's leading us on this path we have no fear. We have no reason to be afraid, because ultimately, if you're going to be shot, that trigger's already been pulled and that bullet's on its way to you, and you're just walking in that path. You're either going to get hit or you're not going to get hit. So there's nothing you can do to dodge that action of what's meant to be. So you go on faith and you go on prayer, and if you don't believe in your prayer, then you don't need to be going.
That does raise an interesting question. It would seem like you're assuming the role of warriors, and in war there are injuries and deaths, and those kinds of things that can happen to you potentially. Do you have any traditional Pawnee backing or custom or tradition that you've practiced as warriors, so to speak, going into this fight?
Well, we have ceremonies that we partake in our Pawnee ways, and we do. We'll have ceremonies when we get up there also, and as we make this journey, we continue to be in prayer. We keep good thoughts, because we carry whatever we carry with us on this journey is what we're going to have with us when we arrive. I'm going to hand the phone over to my Idadi, brother Hadrian, Spotted Horse Chief, so he can fill you in a little bit more on that aspect of what you're asking.
All right. Can I get his name again, please?
Hello, my name's Adrian, Spotted Horse Chief.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for taking time out to speak with us. I had asked Bobby about any traditional preparation that you might have made in embarking on this journey and going into this struggle, and very harsh and rugged and hostile.
Like what Bobby was talking about, we're always in prayer. We always put God first, and our word for him is Ditawahat, and we always put him first. So before we do anything, especially this, because we don't know this path, where it's going to go, what it's going to lead to. So we want to ask for prayers and protection and guidance for when we go to these things like this. And we have our own ceremonies that we have in our tribe. We just had a ceremony here last week, and we thought about our Pawnee people that are already up there, our Indian people that are up there, even our non-native people that are up there that are with us, that are protecting us, and even those on the other side, we even pray for those people as well. But we said some prayers before we left this morning. When we get up there, we'll have our own ceremonies amongst ourselves, and even some of these guys might have their own individual things that they'll do for themselves, their own selves. But it's kind of keeping with that tradition that our old warriors used to do a long time ago. It's in a new day, it's a new time, and some of these things haven't been used, in years, maybe Afghanistan or Desert Storm or even World War II, things like that, but we still try to hold on to those things. So yes, we have our ceremonies and our traditional ways that we hold dear, because we believe when we practice those, it makes us that much more stronger in our faith and our trust in God.
Why do you think it's important for the Pawnee Nation to be represented in this group?
Well, there's a lot of factors, like Bobby had talked about earlier. A lot of it is the sovereignty issue. So it's kind of that same old thing, that's been going on for all these years. The government comes in and just kind of pushes around, and just want to do what they want to do. But, we got to stand up for ourselves at some point, and this is a very big issue that goes on, because if, and this is my opinion, if this battle is lost up here, then that's going to start trickling down to all tribes when they have issues and stuff with land, natural resources, or anything like that. Then the government's just going to kind of push their way around. So for us as Pawnees, we currently have a lawsuit that we have. We just filed with the I guess the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, for things that they've done on our land. This is a real big issue, and it's not just the Sioux Nation or the Pawnee Nation, but there's all other tribes as well that are really concerned and watching what goes on.
Let me ask you a question more in the political vein. The country has just elected a new president who is showing his colors, and those are being more pro-development. We could see the activity of current President Obama vanish in favor of the oil companies. There's discussion of our Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallon being appointed as Interior Secretary, and she is a big supporter of the oil and gas industry in Oklahoma, as you know, being an Oklahoman. So what do you think that future is then, and why then is this event still important?
For me, in my opinion, I think it's really scary. Because you're right. You got these a different change of presidents, a different thought process, and then how they want to do things. And I'll say this. I don't think any tribe is against development, of any kind, but it's how it's done. And everybody knows that that there's oil, that needs to be, people need to look for that and everything. And I don't think anybody's against it. It's just how it's done. And there needs to be stronger regulations. There needs to be better communication, especially with tribes. There needs to be one-on-one consultation, how it's originally supposed to be. And so I think it is a concern because. You're going to have these oil industries that's going to come in, and it's proven fact that Trump is he has money in on this Dakota Access Pipeline. So it looks really kind of scary to me.
One of the things, a couple of the things that I see as also being scary. One is the hard line that law enforcement is taking up there in Morton County along the disputed line there. And also you're just now getting started with that North Dakota winter, and we're seeing pictures of snow drifts and things like that, and temperatures down to 4 degrees, and we know that's just the start. So are you kind of apprehensive then about that situation going into facing this police line plus this bitter cold?
You know what? I'll tell you what I told some people not too long ago. Native Americans, we're built for this kind of weather. We've been doing this, handling this kind of elements, since we've been on this land, and you can revert back to history and think about when the Pilgrims landed. They're the ones that were suffering in this land, and it was Native Americans that took care of them, taught them how to make shelters, and how to survive these elements. We're made for this, So this weather that's going on up here, this ain't nothing for us, Them guys might be freezing up there and having a hard time, and them guys might be complaining about being out there. But for us natives that are there, that's in those camps, hey, it's just another day.
So we're used to it then, and have had to deal with it most of our lives.
I'm going to say, there's probably some tribes that maybe not be used to the cold weather up there. Maybe some of them lower southern tribes. But we're adapted for this weather. And we're going to do what we can by any means necessary. To try to stay there, and that was one of the biggest things that they thought is that when the weather came, that everybody was going to leave. And you've got even more people there now. So that should tell them something, This is serious business to us.
As you get closer to your destination, what are your thoughts? Are they thinking of just merely surviving the cold? What if you get into sort of a hand-to-hand combat situation with the police? Do those things weigh on your mind?
Gary, this is Bobby again. That question right there, yeah, those are things that weigh on our mind. We take everything into consideration. As any warrior going into any type of situation knowingly, we're not just crossing the street, we're driving across our nation. We take those things into an accountability factor of, what could happen, what potential. We've seen the domestic terrorism that's going on, the inhumane treatment of what's going on. Those factors are taken into consideration. But those are things that we're willing to, subject ourselves to, because ultimately this is not about us. This is not about us in this vehicle. This is not about, the ones that are standing there on the front lines. This is about our future. This is about our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. This is about, as my brother, my daddy said, this is about our sovereignty, and this is about coming together. And if anything, this shows us as a learning experience that what was once someone else's problem is now all of our problem.
All right, gentlemen, those are pretty much all the questions on the top of my head. At this point, is there something else either one of you would care to add, something important we haven't spoken about, or something you'd kind of like to leave with our listeners?
Well, I would just like to opportunity so that we can spread the truth. Maybe knowledge is power. There are a lot of people that have an opinion on this, that are getting, it's false information, and, have people, look at what they're looking at and who's posting it and what's being said and, how it's being translated, because, a lot of those things come into accountability as on what's real and what's not. Ultimately, the big money has a factor on how things are transferred from one source to another. The credibility factor of the Morton County Sheriff's Department and the private contractors that they have hired, they are violating our rights. They're violating the own Constitution that this own government made. And that's why there will be veterans going up here. And we have 2 veterans up there that we're going to support. We have our tribal chief with us right now in our vehicle. Ultimately we are doing the right thing. We are led by our leaders. So what we're doing is, just going with, with what our leader says. And we have faith and trust in his guidance and his direction as he leads us as our elder and as our protectors. So, we're just doing that, but I just would like to say, I would like for people to find the truth. There's no allegation. It can be proven whether it's fact or false. And, maybe people could tune in. Whatever is on Facebook Live, that's going to be truth because it's in the moment. It's not an act of reenactment. It's not something that has been edited. It's something that's taken place at that present time of actual moment. And Facebook even is censoring things that can be shown. Anything that has certain tags or certain words used, when Facebook basically intersects that, they will take that off so that the truth cannot be shared. So that's limiting the amount of people that are really consciously aware of what is actually going on.
All right, Bobby, if that's everything you wanted to share, we can wrap this up now. One thing before I go, let me get the name of the gentleman who was with you again.
Adrian Spotted Horse Chief.
Okay. All right. Well, we will hope that our protector looks out for you. I know you're going into a situation that's just the worst of the worst, I would assume. Take care of yourselves. Stay warm. And we're going to try and get back to you. And if you have any other people in your group who are interested in perhaps talking with us, we'll try and find some space in the future.
Yeah, well, definitely. We have a very intelligent, knowledgeable group that's going. As I said, we're headed up there with our chief, and you should definitely take time to speak with him, because he's the one that is guiding us. And we have many representatives of our tribe with us, of influential and respectable positions. So everyone that's on this journey up here, has a lot of information from a different perspective or same perspective that would ultimately provide more education to what it is that you're asking.
All right, we'll check back with you later in the week as things progress, and maybe you can kind of give us a report from what you've seen and taken part in. So we want to say thank you so much, Mvskoke. Appreciate your time here. We'll let you go and get on with it then.
Yeah, well, I want you to know before we go, we have with the group we have going. We have the head of our tribal historian director. We have the hero director, Steve Compost. We have tribal council members, tribal business council members, executive director of our tribe, and as I said, our chief.
How many in your group, actually?
There are... we also have a lightweight boxing champion. 8 of us.
Okay. All right. Well, Bobby, thank you so much for taking your time to chat with me here. We'll put this on our show next Wednesday. For anyone who may want to listen into that program, you can catch us on 1240thebrew.com. 1240thebrew.com. Right, and that will be at 10 a.m. next Wednesday morning, the December 7th.
Okay, December 7th. All right, well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Gary, for taking the time and consideration to, spread the word on this. That's very important.
Well, I'll do what I can here and make my little contribution to what's going on there, so I'm glad to do it.
What it takes is one part, because, that one part can spread that word. One piranha can only bite you, but 10,000 piranhas can chew you up and eat you.
Well, as a reporter for over 40 years, I think I've chewed on a couple of people here and there. So we want to thank you again, and we'll say goodbye right now, and we'll talk to you again in a few days.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Mvskoke.
Oh.
And that's the first time I've ever been called a piranha, but I'll take it. Hey, we're going to take a short pause here on Muscogee Radio here on 1240 The Brew in beautiful but chilly Okmulgee. And when we come back, the plan is to be speaking with a couple of Creek gentlemen who have made their trip up there and were around the camp when they got the latest announcement and news of the permit denial. So please stay with us here on Muscogee Radio.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
One Fire Casino in Muscogee offers Ladies' Day every Monday with $5 match play, VIP days for seniors on Tuesdays, lunchtime match plays on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and several other great drawings and prizes throughout the weekend. Don't forget to take advantage of spinning the wheel on Sundays to win up to $5,000 cash. Be sure to check out the daily meal specials at Council Oak Cafe. There are exciting monthly giveaways with extravagant prizes. Come and play at One Fire Casino, where it really is okay to play with fire.
Welcome back to Muscogee Radio here on 1240 The Brew in Muscogee. We have on the line Bugsy, Barnoskie, and Andrew Lowe, two Creek gentlemen who made the trip up to North Dakota in support of the water protectors at the Dakota Access Pipeline. Hesche, Stongo.
Hesche.
Yeah, Edimahi. Now, who am I speaking with here first?
Oh, Bugsy, Barnoskie.
Barnoskie. Now, the first question I need to know is, what, I guess, motivation. What motivation? Why did you go? Why was it so important for you and Andrew and any others to leave the Creek Nation and go up in support of the water protectors?
That was my second trip with Mr. Lowe. And the first time I went was a week before that, and God had given me a dream about it, because it was heavy on my heart when it all began anyway. And just being Indian, that's how it was. I knew I needed to go and help, however I could help.
Now, that's a pretty intimidating journey to make, first of all, I guess, physically, driving roughly halfway across the continent here.
There was a spokesperson when he and I went to the front.
That's fine.
So, yeah. I was actually piling up some wood by camp we were going to sleep in, so everybody was forming a circle, and all I knew was I was piling up wood, then I heard a loud, I heard people talking over the intercom and stuff, but I heard a loud cheer, and I was like, dang, I don't even know what's going on, and then it was probably maybe 10 minutes later I found out that what you had just mentioned. But it was real uplifting. Everybody was, like Mr. Lowe said, everybody was continuing to keep helping each other. It just even increased it, I guess you would say.
Hey, Mr. Barnoskie, let me ask you to do one thing for me, is kind of back up from your telephone a little bit. It's really, your signal is very hot, and we don't want to miss any of this. Okay, good.
Okay. Is that good?
Yeah, you back it up just a touch for me, and we should be in good shape.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you. Now,
yeah, we both talk pretty loud, me and Mr. Lowe. We're both Marines, so good hearing.
All right, now, you guys on a speakerphone by any chance?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's coming through pretty strong, so kind of curb your enthusiasm, as the phrase goes. Now, why was it important, do you think, for Muscogee Creek people to be represented during this situation?
For me, it was I've always read about how I even got to Oklahoma. I've always heard of the removal. I've always read about it and known about it, and how our people was treated even in the past, how they were overran, and just the Removal Act. And so me knowing that has been in our history, I believe that's like the question you asked earlier about being part of history. Well, I knew we were needing to be part of that of today also, because we're experiencing what happened to them, maybe on a different scale or whatever, but it's still part of the government and agreed, I guess you would say, trying to eliminate a people.
Let me ask one of you to kind of give us a picture of what the camp was like, the people you met, where did you stay and how were you fed? Were there facilities there to help out? What was it like?
We didn't actually stay there. We got there kind of bait, we had been up all night because we traveled all night, and we got there and we were kind of bushed out, but we walked around the camp a while, and I told Mr. Barnoskie, I said, well, let's just go get a motel and rest up real good, and come back next day and, we'd be in better mind and shape and everything. So that's what we did. And so, but there were people out there, that had invited us to stay with them, but we kind of more or less wanted to go it ourselves, so.
What was the non-native community like? Were they hostile to you? Did you have any trouble getting a room? Anybody give you a hard time?
Local?
Yeah, the local folks.
No, they were for us.
Hmm.
Yeah, everybody that we spoke to, they were glad that we were there.
Hmm.
Especially they were about to have like a large ice fishing tournament there, and they were like, that's going to go away if all this happens. They were talking about the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So the locals didn't really care for any of it either. I mean, as far as where we were at.
Gosh, that paints a much better picture than what many people are envisioning there. We saw kind of an veterans group saying that the veterans should not come and they should stay away, and a hard line, of course, taken by the Morton County Sheriff, Kirchenmeyer. So you found the local community a little more accepting and understanding of why you were there?
Oh, yeah, because they were going to be involved in this, too. This was going to affect them as much as us, or the people there. And a lot of people spoke to us, and, they were thanking us that we were there.
And the North Dakota veterans, that is their choice to decide whether, I guess you would say, what part of the line you stand on, what side you on. That is their choice to decide that and say those things about that we're wrong for being there. But it's our choice to be there.
A tough one to make. Now, let me ask you guys your opinions now on some of the most recent developments. Of course, the Army has denied the permit. That would certainly brighten your day, but there's also kind of a grain of salt that goes along with it, saying that the incoming president could change all of this with just a stroke of a pen. Have you thought about what could happen if the incoming President Trump decides to push through? And I understand the Development Corporation said they're going to do it anyway. So have you guys been thinking about that sort of thing?
Yes, I've thought about it. This is my opinion and stuff. I've thought about it. But at least one day, we won a battle. For a while anyway. We know that if you've seen back in the times, they've always won anyway. So. But we stood up, and we're thinking that maybe, this might have some kind of impact on the whole situation, but I don't think it's going to be enough. But there's still guys there, they're still facing the weather and everything. They're going to stay there and see it out. But I think, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to happen because money talks, and we don't have that kind of resources.
Money tends to have a rather loud...
The support of the people and hope everyone opens their eyes to see that things like this happen to the world, which shouldn't. And one day they're going to see, that it shouldn't have been like this.
Well, as I was going to say, I guess money has a pretty loud voice, and people tend to listen to it. What were the conditions there like? Did you have adequate clothing and things? Did the cold get to you?
The weather, it was real cold. I mean, like now that everybody here's saying it's cold, but up there that wind and the temperature drop or anything, yeah, it's pretty harsh. But they had a lot of donations, and it seemed. Excuse me, it seemed like everybody was trying to help with that too, keep warm, and they have stoves or whatever, hand warmers and all types of things. So the weather, our drive was pretty good. We didn't really face any hard weather, even on the way back.
Oh,
but I looked at the pictures and know that it is pretty hard. The winter, it's hard. But they were keeping warm, and for the most part, everybody was helping. And as far as me and Mr. Lowe, we brought all our gear, so we were ready to take on the weather.
Yeah, they had warm-up tents, and they made sure that nobody was cold, as far as we saw. And everybody seemed to be bundled up pretty good.
That's good. Even when I was living in Alaska, I looked at North Dakota and said, I'm glad I'm not there.
Yeah, some of my non-native friends, they were laughing because they're saying they're trying to move them up there because of the harsh winter, and he's laughing at it because he's like, they know these conditions. They've been through more than they think, I guess.
Just getting started.
Yeah, this is probably a light winter for them.
So far, let's hope it stays that way for those folks who have vowed to stay there. Now, let me ask you a little bit about what you heard from other Muscogee Creek people down here when they were informed, or you told them that you were heading up north in support of the Standing Rock Sioux and the other water protectors. What did they tell you before you left?
Our tribe, like any.
We really didn't have any input from anybody, but we went to church the other night, or that night before we left, and we had a lot of support, and they prayed for us, and that gave us a lot of insight on what was going on, and they wanted us to be careful, and they were pretty concerned, but we didn't think about that for our own safety. There was something that we had to do, and we did.
If you
I think I'm a better person for that.
Oh, yeah, certainly, yes. Now, if you had to do it again, would you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a heartbeat.
No.
Okay. Gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up right now. Is there any final thought you'd care to share with our listeners before we go on?
I like how they say Minnewachuny, water is life, and they really, they're real respectful, and there's a lot of love in that camp. I just experienced something I've never experienced in even being in the churches. I go to a Fife Indian United Methodist Church in Muscogee, and it just that spirit moves wherever you're at, and I felt the presence of God there.
Yes.
And we also hope that they keep their prayers up and keep their support up for these people. They need it. Everyone.
Yes. Well, we're glad our protector has looked out for you and that you've returned home safely. I'd like to say thank you for showing up for us and representing us, and sound like we had a very strong representative. So, gentlemen, I want to say Mado.
Yeah, Mado.
Okay, thank you again. That was Bugsy, Barnoskie, and Andrew Lowe, two Muscogee Creek gentlemen who made the trip up to the Standing Rock Sioux and the North Dakota situation there with the water protectors trying to battle against the Dakota Access Pipeline. This is the 75th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor that entered the United States into World War II. We'd like to take a second and share this for those veterans, those who didn't come home, and for all our veterans who have gone into the conflict and made this incredible sacrifice for what they believed and loved. saying Mvskoke to all those veterans who gave that sacrifice and to all our service people who are serving to protect us and keep our homes safe. All right, let's move on to a few community announcements real quick, and we'll wrap up our show for this week. First of all, it is the season of giving. The folks over at Creek Fit in the Dome have a toy drive going, and you can start helping them out, and they will be receiving donations up until December 21st. You can drop off your donations at the Omniplex Dome and the Finance Building with Sheila Buckley. For pickup, they will do that. Called 918-732-7914 or email Sheila Buckley at sbuckley@mcn-nsn.gov. Coming up tomorrow, Thursday the 8th, there you can get your movies in the Dome at 6:30 and get a free picture with Santa and some hot chocolate, some hot cocoa to go with it in the Dome. Movies in the Dome, 6:30 tomorrow. Sponsored by our tourism and recreation folks. It's that time of year, of course, for the angel tree. The angel tree is up, and you have just a very short time if you want to take place. December 8th is going to be wrapped up. They want returned gifts that are unwrapped, and you can drop those off at the Community Services Building, Children and Family Services Department. And give a call to April or Julie, 918-732-7869. Okay, coming up soon, the Spring Celebration T-shirt Design and Art Contest. Young people can enter their T-shirt designs up until January the 13th. So you might want to give them a call if you're interested in submitting a design for a T-shirt. School-age children are encouraged to do that, and give them a call, 732-7600. And that's it for us this week. Check with us next week. We're going to be talking to some national folks about the incoming presidency and some winter tips. So for Muscogee Radio, let me say Madu Mabu Hejitskut. You've been listening to Muscogee Radio. Join us again next week for more local,
everything you need to know about
news
1240 The Brew is on the Brew House website, 1240thebrew.com. 1240 KOKL, Okmulgee, Oklahoma.